thanks all for joining. We're here today to talk about how Explorer, a GHX company, has helped with accelerating the training program for the eCoin tibial implant post FDA approval. Thanks for joining. And quick introductions. My name is Alex Rogers. I'm a urologist out of Colorado, and I focus on female bladder and bowel incontinence. I'm a training advisor for Valencia Technologies, and I've had a very positive partnership with Explorer that I'm here to review with the audience today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ger Alvarez, and I am an Explorer Customer Success Manager. I have been working very closely with Dr. Rogers and her team for almost about a year now. I possess a strong background in medical education, having worked in academia for over 5 years. But enough about me, enough about us. Let's go ahead and learn how Dr. Rogers and her team have used Explorer's digital case support to accelerate eCoin's commercialization.
Thanks, G. So on the agenda today, we'll talk about UUI and the eCoin tibial stimulator. We'll go over the procedural training program, challenges and solutions, a lot of the solutions with Explorer. We'll go into the Explorer platform that we've been using and just kind of review our partnership, milestones that we've hit, and future goals. So we'll dive right into it. So in regards to urge urinary incontinence, it's very common yet very stigmatized. 44% of healthcare professionals won't ask about symptoms of leakage, yet 50% of women that go to a healthcare professional won't bring it up. It is more prevalent than diabetes, asthma, and osteoporosis. It affects 40 plus million women in the United States and 30 plus million men. And there are very few fellowship trained gynecologists and urologists that subsequently get termed urogynecologists. So there's really a bottleneck for treatment for these patients. 75% typically are untreated, and we have medications for UUI, but only 20% remain on these meds at 1 year. We have anticholinergics that often have challenging side effects, and there's growing noise around dementia risk. We have safer beta agonists, but unfortunately they can be costly and there are access issues to them. We do have efficacious third-line treatments of percutaneous tibial nerve stimulation, sacral neuromodulation surgery, and Botox injections, but the penetration with these offerings combined is roughly 5% due to burden, invasiveness, or not being appealing, or adherence being troubling. So there's certainly room for improvement. Need to expand the menu for offerings for these patients. So there's a lot of interest right now in tibial implants in the space. So a treatment that we've had for many years is what we call PTNS, where we take a small needle and place it in the tibial nerve. When we do that, we do it for 30-minute sessions in the office once a week for 12 weeks, and then typically monthly for 30 minutes. It's helpful. This helps treat overactive bladder, which is a syndrome that consists of 4 symptoms: urge urinary incontinence, frequency, nocturia, and urgency. The eCoin tibial stimulator is approved for urge urinary incontinence, and this is a very interesting neurostimulator device that is the size of a coin. And unlike our typical form factor, which is a lead along a nerve and a larger IPG to power and stimulate that nerve target, this form factor is a center cathode to an outer anode rim in the shape of a coin, and when that's placed above the fascia on the tibial nerve, that dome-like stimulation, take a donut, cut it in half, hits that nerve, and it's very generous in the stimulation field. The eCoin device procedure is designed by a fellowship-trained plastic surgeon, and with the thought in mind of how do we take pelvic floor surgeons down to the leg and do it safely. And this procedure can be performed with just local anesthetic. It's done in the office, and attributes of this are that it's very reproducible. It's relatively appealing to patients given the fact that it's minimally invasive with just local. The compliance issues are much less because it goes off automatically on its own twice a week for 30 minutes once activated. And the efficacy at 68% in the ITT population with no screening or testing is quite good in our space for this challenging population. So with FDA approval last spring, Valencia Technologies was committed to a training pathway to certify for physicians. It's a 3-step process. There's online training, there's a lab didactic, and then there is proctoring of cases 3 to 5. Next slide. And as you can imagine, to proctor with physicians, that is very challenging and costly. Travel, scheduling challenges. As we know from COVID, we learned a lot that there are so many ways to make remote options part of our lives. And so I think Explorer and FDA approval of eQuine were well timed to introduce this technology to help with the proctoring lift. And then there are subsequent other benefits of, as we built a proctoring team of non-surgeons called professional education specialists, we could use the Explorer format to help train these team members. And then also, because we want to proctor 3 to 5 cases, many physicians may only do 1 implant at a time or just 2. And so Explorer is a wonderful supplement to make sure physicians get certified on subsequent days. So with commercialization, Explorer has been extremely helpful as an add to our proctoring process. Clearly, it's going to be cost effective because you don't have expenses of travel. You do not have to pay faculty for their time to travel. You eliminate those disruptions of illness or travel delays. With Explorer, based on time zones, a physician in Florida can proctor a case in California and vice versa without having to cancel much of their clinic day. We've used this material or this platform extensively for internal training. We use 2 iPads to get both a macro and a micro view of the field. And these iPads are very helpful for the territory managers for marketing and education materials. It's much easier for TMs from an on-site coordination perspective, where they just have to bring a very small setup versus picking someone up at a hotel, seeing when their flight's getting in. And so it's just much more efficient when we're able to use this platform. And once again, for multi-day proctoring, it's really a game changer to reduce your costs in half. And I think this will be a very important part of scaling eQuine, which is still very new to the market, and also global expansion. And an ad that we found, we only started using Explorer. We had our first pilot case in August of 2022. And then we started building this internal training team in December of 2022. And what we found was that this was incredibly helpful and cost-effective and efficient and streamlined to train our PES team. So going into the Explorer platform a little bit more with G here, we had to figure out the hardware. So what is interesting is that eQuine, it can be done in the office setting. 85% of trial patients were done in the office. So we had to keep in mind that this hardware had to be extremely light and easy to travel with. So we finally landed off, after many iterations of the hardware, we finally landed on gear that is less than 10 pounds, so you can always bring it as a carry-on. It is a very fast setup. You can set it up in 3 minutes. You can break it down in 90 seconds. There's no threading of pieces because we use quick releases, and all of these components are on Amazon. And minus the 2 iPads, the setup is actually extremely affordable and easy to replace parts on. So that's been an extremely fun project to do with G together and learn. And what we found is the true winner for the platform was the zoom on the iPad minis, which really allows for an excellent view of what we're doing. And here is a physician getting certified in Santa Cruz, California. You can see that the view is very good on the right side. We've actually set this up in labs, and we found that when we have a lot of physicians crowded around a lab table, and we also have this remote view. The remote view many times is better than what a physician might get crowded around a table. And as you can see there on the right, we have this bigger view of the operating room where we see people change gloves and make sure they have a big sterile prep that we can see. And then we're seeing right down to the fascia, to the multi-layer closure, putting in the device, irrigating the pocket. So we've been very impressed with how it has performed for us for both remote proctoring and letting people join in on cases and get onboarded as faculty, train up our professional specialists. We had a lab where I had a specialist in Hawaii and a specialist in New Orleans. She couldn't make her flight out of Hawaii. So within 20 hours, we pivoted and said, hey, we're going to do a remote lab. We set this up, and they were able to attend the entire lab remotely thanks to Explorer's platform. And I will speak a little to the software. We vetted several companies, and Explorer's software was extremely intuitive to use. I'm not a tech person, and even I could figure it out. They have a nice case code system, and G has worked hard to make it automated so that we know how long cases are, and it'll make payments easier on a monthly basis for proctoring. So we've really come up with a lot of creative concepts as we've been doing this journey for about 9 months together. And so I'll let G go into the milestones.
Thanks, Dr. Rogers. So we are extremely excited to share some of the milestones that we have reached together. First and foremost, receiving the buy-in from faculty and reps to use Explorer in their day-to-day has always been, monumental for us. So Dr. Rogers, do you mind sharing a few roadblocks that your team encountered during the Explorer onboarding adoption phase, and how together we were able to overcome these roadblocks?
Yeah, a lot of trial and error for sure, because it was uncharted territory what the ask was to create this nimble system that you truly could travel with, set up, and get consistent results every time. And for me, hardware was definitely a challenge. I wanted to figure out how to stay out of the sterile field. I had to play with a lot of different parts on Amazon. We had to swap out a lot of different parts. We had to figure out how to make the speed checks efficient. One of the biggest challenges is IT clearance, and what we were able to do more recently was have at the mom and pop type ASCs a very easy, manageable IT clearance that the territory managers were not intimidated by, and we've had much more success getting the green light to go in and do these cases, always HIPAA compliant. And I think like anything, there's that curve of adoption, and you have some people that are going to be early adopters with this ask and others that are going to be laggard and a little fearful of trying it. But I think even the laggards, once they work with G, who went on site with every single one of them to make sure they understood the ins and outs of this, we did a lot of piloting. I think we were able to successfully change the mindset of anyone who was hesitant about it. And then we only reinforced how great this is for adoption of eCoin with those that already had a positive opinion about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that I wanted to touch on in my second point of how fun and nurturing our relationship has been, to be on site with the Valencia team and to have fully onboarded the West Division sales team and also the procedural educational specialist. Being on site with the Valencia team members has empowered us to optimize the hardware to its present state, as we saw in a previous slide. And speaking of optimized hardware, Dr. Rogers, personally, I feel like it's been an incredible project. It's like building a Lego with no guidance, and mere intuition, just going in there blindly. So, I think that was really, really fun. And earlier this year, I had the opportunity to join the Valencia national sales meeting and push the reps to their limits by having an East versus West Explorer setup showdown. And that was a lot of fun. In this meeting, we took the time to introduce our curated best practices one-pager document, which serves as a quick reference guide for the reps, but realistically speaking, they don't need it. They're Explorer champs at this point. So yeah, like Dr. Rogers mentioned, lastly, we all have experienced the struggles of launching new technologies in hospitals and clinics. So Explore and Valencia have worked together to create a streamlined process for health IT clearance at specialized outpatient surgery centers. So yeah, those are big milestones in this 9-month relationship thus far. Dr. Rogers, now walk us through the future remote roadmap.
Yeah, well, we have still a lot to do. We're just scratching the surface, but the return on investment is clear going forward. And we just want to keep increasing our use of this platform for both multi-day certifications and internal training. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for preceptorship using this system. And then this is not going away, right? With COVID, we've learned that remote platforms are here to stay, and they can be extremely supplemental and additive to what we're trying to do with novel technologies. So I think this has a very strong place for anything that's getting FDA approved, that's novel and needs thorough training and understanding. Where I think one of the moments where we really realized we had achieved a lot was we had cases in Dallas, and we were able to view 3 cases together, and we had 8 people viewing it remotely through the Explorer platform. I was training our specialists, I was onboarding faculty, and we were using an earbud to make it so that no one in the room could hear what we were conversing about except the TM on transparency mode with the earbud. And we were able to preserve that excellent patient experience, that where, patients feel that this procedure is well explained to them, they'd recommend it to friends and family. It really has a lot of appealing attributes. And it was so amazing to be able to onboard so many people on the eCoin procedure and the Explorer system, while still keeping the patient experience intact and not making it feel like a circus, and making sure that the physician felt comfortable with being viewed, which can sometimes be a little nerve-wracking. So we want to just keep this high level of quality going forward, and make this part of the Valencia culture. And I think other brands could certainly benefit from this, and continue using it as a great training platform, and keep our quality and safety in check with a novel therapy, which is first and foremost the most important thing to do.
So in closing, Ryan Padilla, Explorer's general manager, wanted me to share with you all the importance of how expanding access to procedural expertise is critical to optimizing patient outcomes and accelerating commercial opportunities, and how teleproctoring is one of the most efficient and effective ways to achieve rapid scale. Thank you all so much. There will be team members ready to answer your questions. Dr. Rogers, thank you for the opportunity to hang out with you for a few minutes. So thank you
Always,
so much.
always a pleasure to work together. Thank you.